A 22-year-old woman, Elizabeth Dior, is now facing multiple felony charges after allegedly attacking her husband with 2 different knives in a single night. The motive? Authorities say it began with tequila and ended with jealousy and violence. But what really happened inside that house? Was it premeditated aggression or a moment of emotional breakdown? And how does a seemingly ordinary young woman go from a loving wife to a suspected assailant in a matter of minutes? Tonight, we look deeper into the Wyoming case that left investigators stunned, a story of alcohol, betrayal, and a mind pushed past its breaking point. This is Tequila, Jealousy, and a Knife, the Wyoming night that broke her mind. In the small, quiet town of Wright, Wyoming, nights are usually peaceful. Nothing much happens there until one night when everything changed. A 22-year-old woman named Elizabeth Dior would turn an ordinary evening into a night of fear, chaos, and regret. And the question everyone would later ask was simple. How could something like this happen? It began, as many tragedies do, with something ordinary. A few drinks, a few laughs. Friends gathered in a small house. Elizabeth and her husband, 24 years old, were drinking tequila with another couple. Everything seemed fine. But underneath the laughter, there was tension. Because that night, Elizabeth learned something she wasn't supposed to. She found out her husband had been talking to another woman. Was it cheating? Maybe not. But for Elizabeth, it felt like betrayal. And betrayal mixed with alcohol. It's a dangerous thing. People often say alcohol brings out the truth. But that night it brought out something darker. Something raw. Something she couldn't control. Witnesses later said she went from calm to furious in seconds. She screamed, she cried, and then she acted. She tore up her husband's ID cards. She poured bleach on his clothes. It wasn't just anger, it was symbolic. It was as if she wanted to erase him completely. But why? Why destroy the things that belong to him instead of just walking away? Because anger is rarely about logic. It's about power, about trying to take control when you feel powerless. And in that moment, Elizabeth wasn't thinking about consequences. She just wanted him to hurt. The way she was hurting. The couple argued again. The friends tried to calm her down, but nothing worked. Her voice got louder. Her movements became erratic. And then she grabbed a knife. It was a fillet knife, thin, sharp, and flexible. She started chasing her husband through the house. He ran. She followed. And someone called 911. The caller's voice was panicked. He said Elizabeth was screaming, threatening to kill her husband. And here's the terrifying part. Even after the police were called, the chase didn't stop. The caller said she pinned him to the wall and kept hitting him, still holding the knife. She yelled, "You'll be effing dead." Was she serious or just lost in a moment of rage? Maybe even she didn't know. When her husband managed to lock himself in the bathroom, she stabbed the door again and again. "You think you can hide from me?" she screamed. The knife bent from the force. Then she ran to the kitchen, grabbed a butcher's knife, continued the chase. It's hard to imagine what that looked like. A young woman, furious, pacing, knife in hand, chasing her husband through a small home in the middle of the night. It sounds like a horror film, but this was real. And every word of it was being heard by the dispatcher on the other end of the phone. Then, suddenly, silence. Elizabeth collapsed. Her body couldn't take it anymore. The adrenaline, the heat, the alcohol. Her husband said she was overheating. So what did he do? He didn't run away. He didn't attack her. He carried her into the bathroom, the same place she had just tried to break into, and put her under a cold shower. Why would he help her after all that? Because love and fear often coexist. In moments of chaos, people don't think logically. They think emotionally. And sometimes, love still wins, even when it shouldn't. Paramedics arrived and took her to the hospital. Doctors said she might have suffered a seizure brought on by stress, alcohol, and exhaustion. When she woke up, she seemed confused, disoriented, maybe even remorseful. But it was too late. The evidence was everywhere. Deputies found knife marks in the bathroom door, scratches on the walls, and blood smears where she had fallen. They arrested her after she was medically cleared. She was charged with aggravated assault, felonious restraint, and domestic violence. But then came the twist. Her husband wrote a letter to the court. He said she did nothing wrong, called her an amazing mother and a better wife. He said she had never done anything like this before. So what are we supposed to believe? Was this a violent outburst or a momentary breakdown? Was she a monster or a woman who simply snapped under pressure? Psychologists would say this: people don't just explode for no reason. Usually, it's a buildup: stress, insecurity, fear, resentment, all sitting beneath the surface until something small cracks the foundation. That night, it was the discovery of her husband's messages. But that wasn't the true cause. The true cause was emotional instability, the inability to control pain once it turns into rage. And then there's the alcohol, tequila. It amplifies everything. It numbs judgment. It twists perception. She wasn't just drunk. She was emotionally intoxicated. And that's what made her dangerous. Not evil, but uncontrolled. Still, violence leaves marks, not just on walls and doors, but on people. Her husband may say he forgives her, but forgiveness doesn't erase memory, doesn't erase the sound of her screaming, or the fear he must have felt with that knife in her hand. From a legal perspective, her future is uncertain. The court could consider her mental state, her seizure, even her husband's defense. But facts are facts. The 911 call, the damaged door, the knife, all real, all documented. Even if love tries to rewrite the story, evidence doesn't lie. And maybe that's the saddest part. Because this wasn't a story about hate. It was a story about emotion losing control. About love turning into fear, trust turning into anger, and alcohol turning everything toxic. So what can we learn from Elizabeth's night of rage? That sometimes the people we love most can bring out the darkest parts of who we are. That one moment of losing control can erase years of affection. And that passion, when poisoned by jealousy and alcohol, doesn't look like love anymore. It looks like violence. Elizabeth Dior's story isn't just a criminal case. It's a mirror reflecting what can happen when emotion, ego, and intoxication collide. A woman pushed past her limits. A man who still defends her. And a night that no one in Wright, Wyoming will ever forget. Tequila, jealousy, and a knife. 3 simple things. But together, they became the ingredients of a nightmare. One that still leaves us asking, why? And maybe the answer is the scariest part of all. Because deep down, under the right circumstances, under enough pain, any of us could break. Just like she did.